Hey everyone, and welcome. So, whether you're gearing up for Unit ACMBEH402 or you're just really passionate about animal welfare, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the 5 core principles. You know, the stuff that's the absolute foundation for giving animals the best care possible. And trust me, getting these right is everything. All right, let's just jump right in with a pretty big question. I mean, what really separates just good animal care from truly great animal welfare? You know, we all want to provide good care, but what's that secret ingredient? What does it take to create a world where an animal doesn't just survive, but actually thrives? How do we level up our work from good enough to the absolute highest professional standard?
Well, the answer, and really the heart of what it means to be a pro in this field, it all comes down to mastering these 5 foundational principles. Seriously, think of them like the essential building blocks. If you want to achieve excellence in animal welfare, this is where you start.
Okay. Principle number 1, and honestly, this is the non-negotiable starting point. You have to know the species. And I don't just mean knowing what they eat or the climate they come from. No, this is so much deeper. It's about getting to the why behind everything they do. Think about it. Before we can even begin to enrich an animal's life, we've got to have a solid idea of what a normal life even looks like for them in the wild, right? The technical term for this is species-specific behavior. And that's our baseline. It's like our control group in an experiment. Without that baseline, we're basically just flying blind, just guessing.
And this is a perfect way to picture it. On one side, you've got these stereotypic behaviors, things like pacing, over-grooming. These are the red flags. They're often shouting that something is wrong, that the animal is stressed. That on the other side, you see species normal behaviors, foraging, exploring. These are the green flags. They tell us the animal is engaged and feeling good. Our entire job with enrichment is to get less of that red flag stuff and a whole lot more of the green flag stuff.
And here's why this matters so much. Let's say you have an animal that's hardwired to forage. If you give it a toy it can't figure out or that doesn't actually lead to food, you haven't enriched its life. You've just frustrated it. See what I mean? Getting this first principle wrong can actually introduce stress, and that completely undermines the whole point of what we're trying to do.
Okay, so you've done your homework. You know the species inside and out. So what's next? Well, that brings us right to principle number 2, which builds directly on that foundation. You've got to know your tools.
And when I say toolkit, I mean it's way more than just a bucket of puzzle feeders. We're talking about the whole shebang. Stuff like changing up the actual infrastructure of an enclosure, introducing new and interesting smells, giving them novel things to explore, and yeah, even setting up the right kind of social interactions.
And look at how this all connects. A tool always has to have a purpose. We don't just toss a scented burlap sack to a tiger for the heck of it. We do it specifically because we want to encourage that natural, hardwired behavior of scent marking. Every single tool in our kit needs to have a clear, targeted goal.
And this is so important because, think about it. If your whole strategy is just hiding food in different ways, you're ignoring massive parts of what makes that animal tick. A real effective welfare plan has to be holistic. It needs to use a whole range of tools from that toolkit.
Which actually leads us perfectly into principle number 3. Because even if you know the species and you know your tools, no 2 animals are the same. Even within the same species, every single one is an individual. A one-size-fits-all plan, it's never going to work. You absolutely have to profile the individual.
So to make this super clear, let's invent an animal. Let's meet Max. So Max is a 12-year-old Labrador. Right off the bat, we know he's a senior. That's the first big piece of his personal puzzle.
But let's add a few more details. He's geriatric, sure, but he also has some arthritis in his back legs. And we know he gets pretty anxious when there are loud noises. Okay, see? Every single one of these little data points, his age, his health, his personality quirks, they're all going to directly shape the kind of enrichment we choose for him. We're not planning for some generic dog. We have to plan specifically for Max.
Right? Because if we gave Max some high-intensity toy designed for a bouncy 2-year-old lab, it wouldn't just be a waste of time. It could actually hurt him. It could cause him physical pain and mental stress. And that's exactly why this individual profiling is so critical. It's what stops us from making those kinds of harmful mistakes.
All right, principle number 4. This is where things get really practical, where we move from theory to action. Look, having great ideas is awesome, but in a professional workplace, an idea is just an idea until it's properly planned, costed, and documented. Because let's be real, every place has a budget. So let's just say you have $500 for the whole year for enrichment. It's not a limitless pile of cash, right? That single number immediately forces you to stop dreaming and start thinking strategically.
And a documented plan is how you show you're thinking strategically. You can see here how you might allocate those funds. You've got to balance the everyday stuff, the short-term activities, with those bigger, more expensive long-term investments. Being able to do this kind of planning, that is a major professional skill.
Because what happens if that brilliant plan only exists in your head? What happens when you go on vacation? Or you get a new job? See, documentation is what guarantees consistency of care no matter who's on shift. It's what allows the program to be reviewed, budgeted for, and improved. It's what makes it professional.
And that brings us right to our fifth and final principle. An enrichment plan isn't some document you write once and then file away. It's a living, breathing thing. It's a process that you, as the professional, have to lead. You have to constantly review it and, most importantly, be ready to adapt it.
This is what we call the cycle of continuous improvement. And what's really interesting here, notice step 1. It's not about the animal, it's about the people. First, you have to train the carers on how the program works. Then you implement it and you watch the animal's response. You get feedback from your team. And then you take all that info and use it to make the program even better. And then you start the whole cycle over again.
And this quote, it just hits the nail on the head. An enrichment program is only as effective as the people implementing it. It's the absolute truth. You could design the most perfect, genius-level plan on paper, but if the team carrying it out doesn't get the why behind it, or they don't know how to do it properly, it's just going to fall flat.
So here's the big takeaway for this final principle. To really succeed, you have to understand that your people skills, your ability to communicate, to train, to lead, are every bit as critical as your knowledge of animal behavior. They really are two sides of the same professional coin.
So there you have it, the 5 core principles. I just want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. As a professional in this field, you are literally the architect of an animal's entire world. That's a huge responsibility. So as you start on this path, really think about that. After everything we've just talked about, when you sit down to design that world, what's going to be your #1 priority?